The biggest lever here, which is probably one of the more challenging levers to fully appreciate, is whether or not tariffs stick around. If you had a situation where you
Right.
had the
Good point.
Supreme Court knock down the tariffs, that would be
Exactly.
very
Yeah.
growth beneficial. Um,
Well, and looks like there's been at least some initial review from some of the high courts in the United States they're basically saying that these tariffs are unconstitutional, right? If you just look at from a checks and balances, historically tariffs were implemented through Congress, not through the executive branch, right? So, the question becomes are there additional, to your point, legal levers this administration can pull to actually fully implement tariffs? And again, an unknown, right? That's an unknown, right?
Yeah, I mean,
So,
we could really get nerd out here on tariffs, but the short story is that the administration has several levers to implement tariffs. The one that is under the most legal jeopardy is called IEEPA, which is essentially a somewhat blanket law that allows the president to implement policies in response to a stated emergency.
sure.
The core sort of legal question here is whether or not, um, I should say, within that law, that includes the ability to engage in regulation of imports, but it does not give explicit ability to engage in taxation of imports, which, as you mentioned, is traditionally a congressional behavior and responsibility. And so the basic legal debate is, are tariffs a form of regulation, or are tariffs distinct from regulation? And what I'd say is there's a lot of uncertainty here. Like, the appeals court ruled 7-4 against the administration, but there's four people who said that, who made the argument that it's regulatory, and that those folks didn't, they weren't only from one political side or another. So there's a lot of ambiguity here. So hopefully the Supreme Court will hear this soon. I think the challenge is we may be living with this uncertainty until next summer, unless they choose to accelerate the ruling on the docket, which again is unclear.